Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 9 of the Education Concierge podcast. You know who I am. My name is Benita G. I am the Education Concierge, and I am so excited to have you here. We have a new family member, y'all. You know, season 9, we're going up, we're getting better, dismantle, disrupt, disengage to re-engage with all the power of being intentional about education. And we're looking at all aspects of education because we know the current we are in, all of us are in here swimming together. We're trying to build rafts. We're trying to just sink, not sink, but we're trying to float. And we need each other to do this. And we definitely need each other to support and educate all of the kids, even though it may look different in how we educate them. I have Seth Fleishauer. Y'all know I'm like Fleishauer because y'all know I don't like to mispronounce people's names. He is going to come in and tell us who he is, how is he dismantling education? And then how is he putting it back together? We're going to have an amazing conversation. We're going to do this or that. And we have some controversy we may need to get into. I'll see y'all in a minute. Okay, everyone, we're going to welcome to the family Seth Fleishauer. Hey.
Hi, Benita. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
I love it. So, Seth, I am a good old country girl from Lawrenceville, Virginia. Shout out 757 and 804. I love it. And in the South, in the country, Virginia is the South. Y'all still trying to debate me. But in the South, when we invite you over for dinner, you come in. You leave your shoes at the door because we have red dirt clay. You go down the hall to the guest bathroom and you wash your hands because you can't come into the kitchen without washing your hands. And you can't wash your hands in the kitchen sink because you're not cooking. And you sit down because you're a guest and we fix you a plate. So today,
What's for dinner?
We fix you a plate and we bring you a glass of cold, sweet tea.
Sweet tea.
Unsweet tea is a blasphemy. Like, who makes it? Don't do it. So, welcome to the family. This is your first time. When you finish, you will officially be family. And the next time, you have to fix your own plate.
Can I wash my hands in the sink at that point, or
Never wash your hands in the sink. Don't let your cookies. You'll get popped. You'll get popped. What are you doing? Or you'll get the look and you'll know you forgot because you came home from college and you forgot. So tell us about yourself, who you are, and tell us about the work that you do.
Awesome. My name is Seth Fleishauer. I'm the president of Banyan Global Learning. I would say the funnest fact about me is that I'm a meme. So if you Google sad Mets fan, I'm like a sad fan meme because I was in like a good seat with a sad face when a terrible thing happened to my favorite team. And that is a very fun party game to play. Like, look me up on the internet. But yeah, so I'm the founder and president of Banyan Global Learning. We've been around for 17 years, which is a long time to say that you've been doing distance learning. We do global learning via distance learning. And really what it is it's all about finding your place in the world. And it's about the internal and external discovery that it requires in order to be able to know who you are, know how you fit into this world that has so many different parts to it, so many little nuances, so many different ways of being. And by learning about other people, other cultures, you are in turn learning about yourself. You're building your cultural resilience, and that process, that journey, that's what I'm all about. And the distance learning part of it is that, especially in classrooms, you are limited to your four walls, right? And you're limited to the people that you have access to in your geographic area. And it's been like that forever until we have this newfangled little technology here called video conferencing that 17 years ago I had to, when I started the company, I was teaching elementary school in New York, and I had to drive out to Long Island to get access to the video conferencing box that I needed in order to be able to like make the call, which is crazy considering now everybody just does it from home. But this new-ish technology is one that can bring the world to your students without ever having to leave the classroom. New people, new places, new ideas, things that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. So we are all about designing educational experiences that can expose kids to the world, and in doing so, teach them about the world and about themselves.
So tell me why? Like, why do you do this? And how is it dismantling education? Like, in my head, I have like all of the, because I'm just thinking, like, I remember the first time I Skyped, and it was so crazy because I didn't Skype globally. I Skyped from a class in DC full of Black and Hispanic students to like a class out in like, I think they were like in Nebraska,
Yeah.
where I met the teacher. We had gone to a conference where she was like, Benita, my students have never seen a Black person like in real life. And I'm like, what year is this? Like, what are you talking about? And she was like, just where we are. No, she was like, they might be in the city, but where we are. And I said, oh, we can fix that. And we had the best cultural exchange in the US via Skype, and we did about 4 sessions. And it was interesting. Like we talked about hair. What is ashy? Like it was like what is the use of Vaseline? And I loved it. But then I also was like, oh my gosh, but you are saying even we can leave the US but not leave the classroom. Okay. So tell me why.
Well, so first of all, I want to support what you're saying there in that there's an incredible amount of cross-cultural work to do from within the United States, right? Like there are communities that are diverse in some ways and very much not diverse in other ways. There are homogeneous communities, and I think probably most homogeneous communities would consider themselves diverse just because of the diversity of people within that homogeneous group, right? But there is so much there are so many people, so many connections that you can make using this technology that you can't make if you're limited to your geographic area, right? So that is true within the United States, and then it's true between countries. Much of the work that we do is between countries. There are connections to be made internationally in addition to those within the US. The international connections are ones that are close to my heart because of the experiences that I've had internationally. When you travel abroad, when you travel to any place, it's like a mirror and a window, right? Like you're getting this window into this other culture. You're seeing like, oh my gosh, like this thing that they do, this food that they eat, this way that they express gratitude, this tradition that they have, this is different or the same as or similar to something that I do. Right. And in that way, you are constructing your own identity. And
Mhm.
I guess I have a belief that people who have a stronger sense of themselves are typically people who have arrived at that sense of self through curiosity and open-mindedness about themselves. And if you can have that about yourself, you're probably going to have that about other people too. And if we can create a world where we are curious about other people, regardless of whether or not we agree with them, which is a bit of a rarity nowadays, then we can start to like rebuild these fabrics of culture, whether it be global or domestic, that are the basis of human society. And I think that the reason why the global piece is important nowadays is because so much contact is digital. We have so much more access to our global peers than we ever have before. There are global teams that are collaborating to do work that it was unheard of that you would have people in other countries working on the same team as a team in America, but it's happening. And so, part of the purpose of education is simply to prepare students for success, right? But that kind of implies that the system itself is the point. And I want to kind of challenge that idea a bit and say that, it's about building a better society, whether it contributes to the system that exists or it makes room for growing into a new one. And so these types of skills that are inherent to global learning, cross-cultural communication, cultural competency, digital citizenship, the connection between local issues and global issues, these are the types of things that will help students be successful on a local scale and a global scale. And so you're providing opportunity, but you're also building a better world. That's the idea.
Of that. Now, how did you fall? Were you in education? Were you in business and you were like, I can leave this and go do something else? How did Banyan Global Learning come about? Or is it a group of you that were like, we were all businessmen and we were like, no, we have to change the world in education? How did it work? When did it come about?
Yeah, no, I was a teacher. I'll be honest, like I've been running a business for 17 years. I've learned most of how to run a business probably in the last like 3 or 4 years, because before that I was just kind of just answering the call over and over again. But So I was teaching in the New York City public school system. I worked at a couple of schools there, one of which was an incredibly diverse, like 9 languages spoke in the classroom kind of school. It's called the Earth School, public school, but you could like apply to get in. And it was just it was progressive. It was my first experience with progressive education. And then a summer in between 2 of the years that I was teaching there, I went and I taught abroad in Taiwan. And that was an experience that I always wanted to have. I always wanted to teach abroad, and I did it. And I loved the people. I loved the school. I hated what I was teaching. It was just like super basic. What I now understand is the foundation of the language, right? It's the grammar, the vocabulary, stuff that like just doesn't excite me as much as some of the application, right? And so what the school wanted me to stay and teach there, but I had ties back in the US. So I pitched an idea to continue teaching for them using this new technology called video conferencing, right? That way I could do it in my evenings from New York City, well, actually Long Island, because that's where I found the box. And their mornings in Taipei, I was beaming into their classroom. And so in the beginning, it was just me, a camera, and 42 fifth graders. And I was providing them with the opportunity to put their English language skills into context. And that context, that's my passion, right? And so over the years, I got to understand better like what the benefit is that we bring to them. And it really is that ability to apply it in a way that is more open-ended, right? Because like right now, we work with grades K through 8. We do some high school stuff in the US, but for the schools outside of the US where we're providing this English in context, when I talk to graduates, I'm interviewing some high school seniors right now who stopped taking our program in the 8th grade, or actually a couple of like 23, 24-year-olds. That's how long I've been doing this, who I taught in 5th grade. And I think for anyone in education, like that is the real product of your work, right?
Yes.
Like who that person becomes and how they reflect upon what you brought to their lives, like that's the that's the golden nugget right there, right? And when I interview these students and I ask them like, what is the impact that this program had on you, they say time and time again, it gives them confidence to express their own ideas in this foreign language, regardless of the setting, regardless of
Yeah.
how comfortable they are where they are, right? And so that's what we're providing these students through our English in Context global learning program.
Okay, so now my question is it verbal English or is it also like written? Like can they also read the literature book with confidence and comprehend it or read it out loud, the Maya Angelou poem, or is it just a conversational? And I don't want to say just, is it verbal only? Because that's important also.
Yeah, it's all 4 modalities: reading, speaking, writing, listening. I would say that for East Asian cultures, which is the majority of our clients, there is a real focus on like some testing. And so they happen to be really good at the reading, writing part of it. Less so at the writing, but very, very good at reading and at multiple choice testing. Like they nail that stuff, right? The listening and speaking is harder to get them comfortable because that's an exchange that is free flowing, it is unpredictable, and it like puts them into a scenario where they really have to like kind of stop speaking English and just start thinking in English in order to be able to like get through the conversation. This is where providing opportunities that go beyond just the academic classroom, but we do live virtual field trips. We're connecting them to experts. We've got peers, their peers across the world that they're collaborating with. Like this is the context where they're practicing that language in context that is so much more powerful than what they'd be able to do just in the classroom. And meanwhile, we've got schools in the US that we work with where we provide them with a little bit of a different opportunity. It's still that like global learning opportunity. It's that cultural competence piece, but especially for virtual schools, it's also this ability to like get kids to show up for a synchronous learning activity. Because a lot of virtual schools, they don't necessarily want to show up for that, right? Like
Right.
building culture in virtual schools is pretty tough, and you need an exciting, attractive
Yeah.
experience to get them to show up for, and that's where our stuff comes in.
I love that. Okay, because I'm just sitting here thinking to get conversations like speaking to someone from New York And speaking to someone from Virginia, a little different. We just had this conversation, like just in general. Ask you a question, Seth. When you go to the grocery store, what do you get?
Just in general?
Yes,
I thought this was going to be like a pop versus Coke versus soda conversation.
that's a whole other conversation. But like, so I like this one better. So when you go to the grocery store and you put the items into the cart, what do you call that?
The shopping cart?
You call it a shopping cart?
Yeah.
Okay. And then once you have checked everything out, and somebody goes, "Where were you?" You say, "I went to the grocery store." And do you say, "I went to the grocery store. I made groceries"? What do you say?
Well, I call it the co-op because that's like the little neighborhood grocery store on our. So like, the person I'm telling is usually my wife, and I'll tell her like what I got there, which is typically eggs, and I'll just be like, "Hey, got eggs at the co-op." Be like, "Do you need anything else?"
So, and even if you say that to me, I'm like the co-op. And so I said to someone the other day, I was like, "Oh, I went to make groceries," and she just looked at me. She said, "You made the groceries?" I was like, "Yeah,
So you say made the grocery?
I'm gonna make groceries." And she was like, "How did you make them?" And I was like, "I put them in the buggy and they took
Oh,
them back out and
buggy.
paid for
That's
it."
all
Right.
British.
And so
Huh.
I was sitting there like, okay, so how do you run into that? Or do you just say, look, when we're having conversational English, let's try just kind of go down a playing field? Because if you're coming down here in the South and you conversation might be different because I didn't know about pop
Mm.
until college.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, and like Jimmy's and sprinkles. Yeah, there's like all those kinds of conversations.
Sneakers,
Yeah,
and
tennis shoes.
I was like,
Yeah.
shoes are for playing tennis. They were like, no.
Yeah, so there are those regional differences in vocabulary, and obviously we have them between countries as well, right? Like there's a whole
Yeah,
bunch of British vocabulary, there's a whole bunch of
yeah,
Australian vocabulary, South African vocabulary, like it's all it's everywhere. And that, typically if you're a native speaker, especially, you can traverse that kind of obstacle through context, right? So it's like, okay, you said made groceries, I heard groceries, right? So like I can figure out what
yeah.
you mean by that. Like, I don't imagine you are like the supply chain for the grocery store. I can like figure that you probably just got some groceries and you're using a different word. Where I think it gets really interesting are like the ways of communicating that have to do with like sort of what is admissible behavior and what is not, right? So like you start to get to like the difference between like East Coast, West Coast, or like North and South, where there's like different types of ways that people engage with a stranger versus with a someone they know a little bit better, right? Like in New York, there's like they're very direct, right? Very direct people. They don't have enough time to like waste their time with like niceties, right? Whereas in the South, there's like, all like you will say all sorts of nice things to someone you do not like, right? Bless their heart. It's not their fault, right? But like, there is a bunch. My mom lives in Tennessee, so I know there's a whole lot of like, there's a dance, right? There's a dance
Yeah.
that you're doing with people, and that's like the proper way to do things. And if someone doesn't do it correctly, like you might not be telling them to your face like you would in New York, but they'll hear about it some other way.
You standing, you're like, bless your little heart.
Bless your heart, right? It's that term works for everything.
I love that. Okay, so you got there, you were like, you know what? I went, I saw, I came back. We're starting this. This is amazing. K through 8.
Well, it started just fifth grade, and then we built, but yeah.
Built up, so and now you're in 8th grade, which is great because middle school is still me. All the attention in the world, Lord. Because I was in middle school for 20 some years, and we all need it. Just
God bless you for being one of those people who love teaching middle school. We need those.
because she was like, I'm like, look, I'm looking up to them, like I'm looking at my basketball players who are already 6 feet, and I'm like, who's opposite? And I'm like 5'3". They're like, really, miss. I'm like, do this work so you can go play ball. Or my soccer players who I would like always say, I'm gonna come out there. And then I finally come to practice and they're like, oh, you're actually good. I was like, look, I used to play soccer in the 1900s. I know.
1900s.
They would tell me back in your day, when we get to impact and how are you making an impact on education, on global education, what would you say would be the top, or you can do 1, 2, or 3 the top things that you see are making an impact moving forward. It's like as we push into, and I tell people as we push into the 22nd century, because we're 22nd, 21st century, yeah, we got it. As we push into the 22nd century, we'll be the top things that you can see Banyan global learning pushing or achieving that will be impactful.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on which audience you're talking about. And again, we work with like virtual schools, some brick and mortar schools in the U.S., and then we have our international schools in various countries, mostly in East Asia. And then there's sort of the dream of what we're building for when we can connect all those together. But for the I would say for everyone, one of the big pieces that I haven't talked about yet is the digital competencies piece. Again, so much of the communication, the contact, the connections that are happening in this world right now are digital. And it's a new style of communication. It's a new style of media consumption. There are a lot of skills that are particular to this specific medium. And I'm talking about like, this video conference style thing that we're doing right now, but also to like podcasting and also to texting and also to like YouTube media consumption versus print media consumptions. Like there's all of these different skills that are brand new. We're part of this like gigantic experiment of like what you can do to a culture when you stick like the world's knowledge in everyone's hand and say go. And there are some self-regulation pieces of that that are incredibly important. There are some etiquette pieces of that that can help students get ahead in terms of succeeding versus their peers in as far as like how to have a professional Zoom call. Like these are the types of like important skills that are going to like set them apart early on. And then there's just this piece of like bringing awareness to what you're doing. There are lots of guidelines / best practices. My personal opinion when it comes to digital competencies is that if you can bring intentionality to your behavior, then you're doing it right. So it doesn't matter if you're spending an hour a day on your screen versus 8 hours a day on your screen. I mean, I think 8 hours is a lot, but not all screen time is created equal. And maybe you're doing something great, right? It's a matter of like, am I bringing intention to this? And am I acting in ways that are consistent with my values and my goals? And as long as you're doing that, you are in control, as opposed to the makers of the technology who are most often in control, right? Like who is scrolling here, me or my anxiety, right? And so, yeah, I got that for one of my podcast guests. It's like, yeah, so it's so like that digital competency piece that is part of global learning as we see it, because digital communication, digital connection is such a big part of global communication and connection right now. For a virtual school audience, it's like building those like cultural skills. And what I mean by that is like actually showing up and participating in an online culture versus like just doing your stuff asynchronously and like tossing it by the wayside. So those are the types of like impact that we can have with the virtual schools. With the international students, it's about that confidence piece. It's about being able to prepare them to express their original ideas in unfamiliar settings using this lingua franca, right? Like they're not necessarily learning English so that they can come to the US, although that is a goal of many people to get educated in the US. We still have the world's best university system, but many people are learning English just so that they can be internationally relevant, because it is the language that everybody uses. So dreaming a little bit as we grow and get bigger, have more clients that share our vision of a globally interconnected world and the way that we can align and inspire each other by being connected in these ways. We would love to build and have plans for building like a global collaboration network. Many schools who are into global learning, they have a very difficult time facilitating collaborations. There's a lot of time zone issues. There's a lot of cultural competency pieces. We have a vision for how this could go. We just need to build up a critical mass, because part of it working is to have a critical mass, because you need like cohorts of like 5 rather than like matches, because it has to be okay if 2 or 3 drop out. because that happens a lot. There are a lot of demands on schools. So that's the holy grail. That's what we're dreaming of. And we're close to getting there. We just need to get some more of our international and domestic clients working towards these goals, preparing them with these cultural competency skills, and then we get to build our dream.
So that takes me right into controversial corner. So controversial corner.
And I love that you didn't tell me what this was. I'm just like, oh,
But it normally comes while we're talking. So I'm going to say this. Everyone, those of you who know me, we are no longer concerned about who is in the administration because they are there. We did the process of Americans do, and we use our democracy and we voted in whomever we voted in. But now that we have this new administration in, and you're speaking, and we know that we're having some difficulty around exactly how we're going to do the new immigration plan. I think that's the best way I'm going to say it. Yes, that's the best way I'm going to say it. Where it may be a little more difficult to have our international students enter the U.S. to be educated. How are you and your company anticipating the potential growth that could possibly happen where it may take longer to get like permission to come in, or it may not ever happen because of where they're located or what may have happened with somebody saying anything or posting something. And so, how do you think that is going to impact education, global education, and especially when it comes to the increase, how your company will be able to manage that? Because I just feel like it'll be like a boom, hey, we need more global because we can't get in the States.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I will say that if anybody thinks they know what's happening, they're probably, let's just say everyone's making guesses, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
if you're asking me for my best guess, it feels like every day's a new adventure,
It
Benita.
is.
One day I'm like, no one's going to want any of these skills because everyone's like, everyone's going to be protectionist and everyone's going to like, just focus in on their own people. But that I think that's my fear driving, the conversation in my head. I think that like, depending on how this all shakes out, other countries might need each other more than they currently do. And they're going to need these skills in order to be able to communicate, collaborate, and do so in a way that is that speaks to everyone's unique gifts and experiences while also working towards a common goal. And so in that way, I think that these skills are super needed. And then you look at, it's interesting to see like how education is kind of shifting just in the short term with all this stuff. And there's kind of this feeling that it's that like, the entire thing's blowing up, all the bets are off, like, got to start everything over, right? But you talk to like individuals, and I don't know anybody who's like, what the administration's done in the last 3 months completely changes what I want to bring to education, right? Like everybody's just like, okay, let me figure out how I'm going to bring what I have always wanted to bring to education in the context of this new information.
Yep.
And, I think that we might see something different when it comes to how funding actually shakes out. That's the big question mark, right? Like there's all this federal funding. Is it going to get reallocated? What are districts going to do? I don't know. It's a mystery. Every day is a mystery. And when it comes down to it, like, it's kind of a life lesson, right? Of like, how much do you really have control over? How much can you really predict, right? Like what you want to try to do ideally is just like, be in every moment, bring your values and your experience to those moments. And if something like happens that you have to react to it at that time, but don't like live in fear, like something might happen or something might break, or like, don't overthink it, right? Like just like stick to what to how to do well, and like have that impact, like be in control of the things that you can actually control, have the impact where you can. And that's what I'm finding when I talk to people, is just like, we'll see where it's all going. But in the meantime, like this is what I've always done, and this is what I'm going to keep doing.
Right. I love that. Thank you for answering our controversial water. He's like, let me take some water. Because that's it's like I love what you said. Like, you're right. Many of us who are in education are like, look, these kids, Monday through Friday, we still have to teach these kids 9 to 3, 8, whatever it is. The kids don't stop coming. Education is, and kids and with students rely on us. Many of the students, we are their safe space. We are the consistent person in their lives for a lot of reasons. They love school. At least they like coming to see their friends. And so it's something that's they're coming back. And you're right. Like a lot of my educators, they're like, I'm going to do some things that I wanted to do because looks like I'm going to need to do it. But the kids, the babies are still coming. I was with college kids earlier. They're still going to class. There were a bunch of seniors. They're still excited about graduating. But they are, like you said, they're paying attention. They're listening. But we still have to do our everyday life. And I appreciate that. And you're like, yeah. So look, however Banyan Global Learning needs to adjust or add a class or connect with another, start a cohort, that's what you're going to do according to what's happening. So thank you. That was a scary thing.
No, it's the uncertainty that was scary. Yeah, first of all, I would just want to give you props. Fantastic guest prep, by the way. Because I have my own podcast, and I'm like, all right, like now I know how I want to do it. But like one of the things that you had all the questions, but then you were like, and controversial topic. I'm not telling you what it is.
Be ready. So that takes us to the fun part. So just calm down. So we have this called Concierge Crossroads. And it's back in the day, that song, you can get with this or you can get with that. Can't say the whole thing.
You could get with that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And so my question here, though, am I allowed to provide context?
We are naturally educators. Most of us are educational entrepreneurs and educators. And you guys, we don't know how to do it this or that really well. We normally say both, and then we explain. And that's okay. It's not bother me because I know who I'm interviewing. And so if that's the case, I will tell you 90% of the time that is the case, and it's okay. Explain, answer, and then we go forward.
All right, cool. Thank you.
No problem. All right, here we go. Traditional classroom or hybrid learning hub?
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to say it depends on the kid, right? Like traditional classroom, I think gets a bad rap because different styles of education work for different people, and for some people, traditional education works really, really well. Right? Like my daughter is one of those people. She excels in the traditional education system. My son does not. And so, even within my family, it depends on the kid. But I would have to say hybrid learning hub because I'm a distance learning.
I love that because I'm the same way. Like my sister, we talk about it now. My sister's 5 years in front of me. She did thrive in the public school. I probably was the kid you should have put in like a homeschool, micro school, but I still had to thrive. And then my brother was like probably one that should have been like the outside adventure, choose your own thing. But we all did thrive in public school, but we didn't have choices like that, like we do now. So you're correct. Okay. Standardized tests or portfolios?
So again, I'm going to say I was a crusader against standardized tests for a really long time. I've heard some other perspectives on it. I think my problem with it is the high stakes nature. I don't want anyone to think that it's more than just a sliver of achievement, but I do understand the value of standardization when you're trying to compare people from different places and as a vehicle to social mobility, right? Like if you know that all you need to do is nail a standardized test in order to get opportunity, that is a way out of undesirable situation for some students, right? In terms of like displaying the total student and everything that they know, obviously portfolios.
Love that. That's one of the best answers I've had. Okay. Textbook or TikTok tutorials?
Again, depends on the kid. It's that the traditional classroom question, right? Like the same kid that's going to work well in the traditional classroom is probably going to work well with the textbook, and it depends on the textbook. Some are much better than others. But TikTok tutorials is obviously the way that everybody wants to learn. So, the extent to which you can take your textbook and put it on TikTok, I suppose I'd recommend that.
If someone do that, then you'll make a lot of money. Stream or STEM?
So I saw this one and I was like, here's my thing. I saw Stream once, right? Where they put reading in there too. And I'm like, you're just leaving out writing. That's it. That's all that's left. right? Like, so I'm gonna say STEM because no, because like what are we doing if we just add it all in there? Like what we're talking about is like cross curricular connections, right? Like the extent to which we can teach something where they're using all the things, cool.
Yeah.
Like I think science, technology, education, and math, if you're going to group them together, make more sense than adding art in there. But there's an artistic element to the design and all that stuff. Like I get that, but there's also reading, so make it stream. But there's also writing, so make it strawam. Like, I don't know.
So all the above. We'll do that. Okay. Behavior charts or restorative circles.
So yes, and right. Like, I think that some kids, all you need is that behavior chart, right? They just need a little correction here and there. They're gonna be fine. Some situations require a deeper conversation. That was some of the stuff I learned at my progressive school. I was at a fairly traditional school before that in like 2004 when I started teaching, and it was very like teacher centered and like authoritarian discipline, and that it worked to a certain extent for some kids. But at that progressive school, I was like, oh, wow, there's another way. Okay, there's a whole other world here of dialogue, of children feeling heard, of getting to the root of something, of empowering them to resolve their own conflicts through modeling the proper type of dialogue to get through conflict. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that's not just moving a paperclip up and down a chart. So yes, and
Got you. Mentorship or coaching.
yes. I mean, if you can get both of them, right? Like it's great. I mean, I would say coaching is the most powerful form of professional development. If people can get a mentor, great, but a coach can be a mentor. A mentor isn't always a coach. So I guess I'd go with
I
coaching.
love that. Well, I don't know. You may answer this differently. Global projects or local impact.
Yes, and like it's like you got to do both, right? Like you got to have the local impact in order to understand the connection between that and what someone else is doing somewhere else, right? Like we are not living on this earth in isolation to each other, but we have a local community, and that local community is critical, right? Like those are the people we need the most. And so you got to have that local impact, but you're leaving so much on the table if you don't look at the global projects as well.
I love it. It's just making me think of Jackson, Mississippi, and how they didn't have water, and then other countries that don't have water either. I wonder if a teacher like connected it, or did they do a project
Yeah,
on?
yeah. And we do a
Yes,
lot of work with the Sustainable Development Goals, and clean water
yes.
is one of the big SDGs. And there's a lot of work being done on water all across the world.
Okay, I'm gonna reach out to some of my Jackson teachers. Thanks, y'all. Three more. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
No, neither. Give me daytime. I will take nice, reasonable daytime.
So neither. Just
I wake up at 6:45 because I have to. If I didn't, I would wake up at like 7:30 and I would go to bed at 10:30. So I don't think either. I am old, and I just
nobody has ever said that before. You were like, no, do not wake me up early and leave me alone. I'm going to bed at a different time. Thank you.
yeah, I like daytime.
Southern old people are up at 5. So every day,
Yeah, no, that's coming. I feel it's coming.
30, my dad's gonna call. I'm like, he's like, you ready for work? No. Why are you talking to me? Okay. Would you prefer audiobooks or podcasts?
I mean, just if I look at my own behavior, which is one way that we know ourselves, than podcasts. I listen to a lot more podcasts than audiobooks. I think it's just because I haven't figured out how to use Audible though. But I also like reading. Like I like reading books. Like I have paper books. I do this thing where I turn a page like with my fingers, as opposed to just like pressing the button of the Kindle or whatever. But yeah, I like having like physical paper books, and I like reading before bed. So my podcast, that's how I kind of keep up with, like, I guess you would call it like investigative journalism. But Hidden Brain is one that I really like right now. That's a really good one. I also listen to one called The Emerald, which is like, woo, for any of your listeners who know what that is, DM me. Let's talk.
He said the emerald, like I'm writing it down.
Oh yeah, it's out there. It's great. It's about animism, which is like the oldest like religion in the world, where it's essentially the belief that like everything has a spirit, and it's the way that everybody lived forever until modern religion came around. And it's looks at things in an interesting way, in a way that I think would heal a lot of the things that are going on right now in the world.
Reading
Amazing. The Anxious Generation.
Anxious Generation. I keep saying
Yeah.
child. This is a mental health therapist. You need to read this book, and it is. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I feel like I've read it because I've talked to so many people about it, and I've read the ChatGPT summary of each chapter.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
let me read it too. But I will do that once I finish a chapter. I'm like, did I get everything? Because I might have been like daydreaming. And
Oh,
so
it's
I will.
great. ChatGPT is great for a reading companion, right? Like, I just finished this chapter. Give me a summary. Give me like talk to me about
Yeah,
this part. Like, what happened here? Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of
And they make
good
me a
stuff there.
PDF. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, this is the last one. Sweats and sneakers or blazers and loafers.
I can't believe it took this long to get to a clear answer. I live in Portland, Oregon. It is sweats and sneakers.
And thank you so much for playing Concierge Crossroads, this or that. All right, y'all. We have come to the end. This has been such a joy. I've learned a lot. This is not the last time you'll be on the podcast. I'm going to bring you back because we need to dive a little bit deeper into what you do. I am excited about new things. And I know 17 years is not new to you, but it's new to us. And I'm excited. And I'm just thinking about all of my friends that are overseas. I'm sorry, I was a military spouse. So we were like overseas. So I'm thinking about all of my, so when we say overseas, and you're not in the United States, you're overseas. All of my friends that are overseas that are in, we have a school in Sierra Leone, and you were speaking, and I said, oh, we need you to go there.
Mm.
When we go, we need to set up somewhere. And we have the laptops. We are a STEM focused school, over 300 students. I was like, yeah, but that would also help them because many of them want to go to Europe to go to college or
Hmm.
to America to go to college. Or wherever. But you're like, it doesn't matter. Like you said, it doesn't matter if they leave their country. Being international is essential,
Hmm.
and being able to do that. I love that. Okay, so this is what we do. I have a call to action, which means tell me why should I listen? What should our listeners do now to help reimagine education? And then I want you to tell us how we can get in contact with you to help you reimagine education.
Mm. Yeah, I saw this question, and there's a lot of like one way to answer the question is to talk about the stuff that I already do, right? Like, there's a question about dismantling education. I think I kind of answered it, but not directly. Of like, virtual education is a way that we are dismantling education right now, providing opportunities where there were no opportunities before. It's all about access, right? But I think I want to go with like the lessons we learned from the pandemic, right? Like, and I think that those lessons were different for different people, but something that I saw, and obviously there was an incredible amount of like pain and suffering and death that happened during the pandemic, but there were also some incredibly beautiful moments of people looking around and seeing their world more clearly and understanding what was important to them. It was like the opportunity to stop and breathe and look around opened everyone's eyes in a way that they hadn't really been opened before, and cutting out all of the like stuff that they had to do, all of these like little things that become the fabric of your life, these little boxes that you have to check every day. And so there were some things that came out of that were sort of not sustainable, but some things that I think can be applied to whatever you're bringing to education as an educator. And that is to like understand yourself well enough to know what is it that you bring, right? Like, not like what is the philosophy that you agree with, not like, not even necessarily what skills and experience you've been trained on, but like in your heart, when you look around and you see things and you know and you feel what's right about the world, like how can you build on that stuff? Because that is that authenticity piece that only comes with self-knowledge, that resonates so much more deeply with the students that you work with the people you come into contact with, than something that is done half-heartedly, something that's done because it's the thing that you never really thought not to do. That like level of awareness and self-knowledge, if you can bring that into whatever your work is, then you're going to have that real true lasting impact. My company's called Banyan Global Learning. It's about, the banyan tree is this tree that has these roots that fall down into the ground, and then they kind of propagate and create new roots, right? So for us, it's about two things. It's about longevity, because that's what education is for. It's for this lasting impact, probably more than any other industry. And it's about connectedness, right? That tree gets connected to all these other different things through this root system. And if you're able, you will be able to have that impact, that of longevity. You will be able to make those authentic connections if you know better who you are and what you stand for. And think back to those months in the pandemic when you were looking around and seeing things more clearly. What did you see back then, right? And see if you can build on that.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I'm gonna go back because I need to go back and look at the journaling that I did, and am I on the right track? That was
Yeah.
amazing, and that is so true. Like, just be authentic. I think, and
And
great
it's hard.
educators, the great philosophers, the great leaders are authentic, and that's what draws us to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, easier said than done, right? Like it is a journey, right?
Okay. I told somebody the other day what it comes to. She was today. She was like, "Yeah, I don't know what I want to do. I finished my degree," and I said, "Okay." And she said, "What?" I said, "Okay."
Hmm.
And she said, "No," because people were trying to tell me. I said, "Girl, I don't know why we're trying to make that 19-year-olds think they know what they're gonna do. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not 19. It is a journey. Like it said, I told us that it's a journey. It is a process. You will
Yeah.
get great in one thing and wake up one morning and go, and do something completely different, and just be just as successful. But right now, just have a plan for graduation to pay your bills and to be successful in that moment." So I
Hmm.
love that. Now, how do we connect with you? I say I have a school, say I started a charter school. We are global based, and we need some help. How do I get in contact with Banyan Global Learning?
Yeah, so you can check us out on our website, banyangloballearning.com, Banyan. I also have two podcasts. One of them is about global learning. One of them is about distance learning. So the global learning one is called Make It Mindful, Insights for Global Learning. And the distance learning one is called Why Distance Learning? It's the question that we have, as distance learning professionals, we've been asked that question so many times of like, wait, why are we doing it this way? And there are amazing answers to that question, and we highlight those. It's all about like there were these perceptions of the pandemic that or of distance learning that came out of the pandemic, where like people had a bad experience, because of course they did, because like overnight their teacher had to be a distance learning teacher. Like like it takes months if not years to get good at that, right? But like all of a sudden people had to do it, and not by choice. So they have negative experiences, and many people incorrectly generalize that negative experience to the entire industry. So we're trying to just educate people about all the different things that you can do over distance learning. So banyangloballearning.com. My email is seth@banyangloballearning.com. If you are looking for a series of live virtual field trips monthly, we engage with students and we
Ooh.
bring them to all sorts of different countries. The video content is recorded, but the teacher is live, and we bunch countries together and like compare them. And we've got, all the narrative arc to each of these lessons. That's a monthly engagement. We also have a weekly engagement where we take those monthly field trips and we dive deeply into those global learning skills. And that's like more of like a course, like a once a week course. And then we also have a daily option where we are like not only doing those things, but having like live virtual field trips where the people in the field are live, facilitating collaborations to other schools and delivering like custom curricular solutions. So there's lots of ways that you can get involved. And if you want to hear more, if you want to highlight reel of our experiences, you can contact me, Seth@banyangloballearning.com.
Oh my goodness. I immediately I was like, oh, we can now be a better country about geography because of Banyan Global Learning.
Well, I mean, there's some stuff with maps. I'd rather the people than where it is on the earth.
that that means all of that is part of it. Like, just can you tell me the people say what? Okay, just because like, even sometimes the students go, "Do they speak English when you lived in Dubai?" And I was like, "Yes, they
Pretty
do."
much everywhere speaks some English, you know.
So even the signs were in English and Arabic, and they were like,
Mm.
"Really?" restaurants, just flip the menu over, English or Arabic, or I could just say, I don't know what this is. And they were trying to explain it. I said, so we've figured it out. But I think a lot of it is the global part. Like they only know. Most of my inner city students are only done for like a 6 block radius
Mm.
in DC. And so even going to the monument, so we just started taking the train to the monuments. Let's go. Because this is part of your city. Like you live here. Let's go to the monuments. They're free. And you're a student. So riding the train is free. So I
Yeah.
just think that part and then getting I loved um, students who travel internationally for education. But now you're giving us access to this weekly, daily, monthly to ensure that students across the globe are connected and learning. And that is important because we don't live in a little egg carton. I need you to come out of that. And there are no eggs there anyway that you can afford. So just come out of that. Let's do something else. Okay, so this is how we end it. Thank you so much, Seth, for coming
Thank
on the
you.
Education Concierge podcast. You guys know that I'm a little country girl, but I went to Little Shallow Baptist Church on Out Road in Jared, Virginia. Shout out VA. Southside VA. Let's be specific, not Northern Virginia. And I'm a little country church. You were the guest pastor. I know you didn't know you were a pastor yet, but thank you. It doesn't matter what your religion is. We don't care here. Just you came in and you did a great sermon and you educated us. But we'd like to end with you, our guest pastor, giving us any type of encouragement to carry on for the rest of the week. You can sing, you can rap, you can do a poem, you can dance if you want to just move stuff out of your way, whatever you want to do to give us some encouragement to continue to dismantle, disrupt, and reimagine education.
I mean, the first thing I thought of is the thing that I tell my daughter all the time. You know, she's an adolescent. She's kind of, just starting to like, kind of figure out the world, and like part of that is understanding the dangers, right? All these threats that are out there on an individual scale, on a global scale. And what I try to bring to her is the mindset that I try to bring to my everyday, which is like, how magical is it that we get this opportunity at all? Like we are guaranteed this moment. That's it, right? No future moments are guaranteed. And to grapple with your own mortality and really try to understand on a deep, visceral level that you will die, everyone you know will die, everything you love will be sacrificed on the altar of time. To understand that deeply and approach each moment with the deep gratitude that you are even here at all, right? That we get this like beautiful little sip of life with all of the pain and suffering and beauty and love, all of that mixed together. Like that is so profoundly amazing. If you start with that, doesn't matter what you're doing. So gratitude.
Gratitude. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you had your notebook open. I hope you had your favorite drink while you were listening to the podcast. Season 9 of the Education Concierge podcast with Seth Fleishauer. I got it right again.
Season 9? Damn, girl.
I talk a lot. You guys, see you later. Subscribe. What I was gonna say, subscribe, share, promote, review. Don't forget to go over to Seth's 2 podcasts. Also, you need to subscribe, share, promote, and leave amazing reviews for us. And we will see y'all next time. Oh, and you know where to find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever else is out there. We're on all of it. Okay, so just go look, subscribe, because you want the latest episodes. Click the little button. I'll see y'all later. All right, hold on. Let me end it, and it'll stay on to the same.